IAEI News Live, everybody. Let me just News Live event. Why it says interconnected systems. Believe I should be NFPA 110 and 111. So just checking. There it is. And I'm live. All right. For some reason, I was getting mixed messages. David Engelhart, good afternoon, and welcome to another IAEI News Live. Tom Dimitrovich here, and we are going to be talking about NFPA 110 and 111, those second draft meetings. Brian Bowman, second draft meetings occurred yesterday. And you're going to learn all about the second draft meetings of NFPA 110 and 111, and it all starts now. All right, welcome back. Happy Technical Tuesday from Tommy D. Willie Snyder, thanks for joining in. Brian Bowman, thank you as well for joining in. So, you know the topic of today, and we're going to be, so I'll tell you what was interesting. So yesterday, yesterday was our second draft meetings. And we had, let me just look at this. We had 110 and 111. I'll tell you right off the bat, Mr. Bowman, 111 only had one public comment. Jody Wages, welcome to the program. I was going to say the show, but it's a program, I think. I don't know. All right, so 110 had 11 public comments, and I would say 3 of those were correlating committee comments. And what I recognized was that, what I recognized was that the 3 public comments, let me just call it up here. The three, so you had 3 correlating committee comments, and there were 3 public comments that matched the correlating committee comment. And I'm just going to take a look real quick. So there was a correlating note. So for example, one of these, which was 3.3.16.2, that bypass isolation switch, the submitter was the correlating committee. And I believe we deleted this one because they commented on the word sufficient, and there is no word sufficient in that section. So we deleted it, or we rejected it, saying that there is no word sufficient in section 3.3.16.2, to which they made a comment on. And then there was correlating committee comment number 1. All right. So it showed up, well, it shows up as once, but I think I counted it twice. I'm just looking for another one in here. Here's another correlating committee note. Public comment number 6. This came from the correlating committee. It was on section 8.1.3. Now you'll notice that there's 3 public comments on 8.1.3. The one correlating committee note said the order of the sentence should be reviewed for clarity in respect to where the phrase shall be permitted is located. I'll let you know what the committee did on 8.1.3, because I'll tell you this one was very controversial during the meeting. We debated this for some time. And then there was, yeah. All right. So there's our correlating committee note number 2. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. All right, Nihad El Sharif, thanks for joining in. Robert from Omaha, greetings. Have you been reminded that you are appreciated and valued for all that you do? Robert, I just was. Thanks for joining in. And Lou Petrucci, thanks for joining in, Lou, and hello. So, 11 public comments. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we didn't end till about 2 o'clock p.m. We did not take a lunch. We took a 15-minute break. So we had a lot of fun. And if you did not tune in to NFPA 110 and 111 second draft meetings, you missed a lot of fun. All right, so what I want to do is here's what I'm going to do. I am going to walk through NFPA 110. I will hit 111 as well, but again, there was only one public comment, and we rejected it because it was new material. So I'll just give you that before we get to 110. I'm going to walk down through, not Electric Avenue, but I'm going to walk down through NFPA 110 on the first draft changes, and then I'll let you know if there were any public comments on that first draft. In fact, what I am going to do, I'm going to do something here, moving some things around because I want to open up on another computer. I am going to go to NFPA. So if you want to follow along, you go to nfpa.org/110. That gets you to NFPA 110. Then you have to close any of these little windows that just for some odd reason pop up. Then you have to go to next edition, not new edition, but the next edition. Go to view public comments. You will be asked to sign in, and I believe you'll just see the comments. You won't see the results of the second draft because those aren't published yet. I don't know what you're going to see. If you're not on a code making panel and you're watching this and you just did what I asked you to do, tell me what you see, because I know what I see, but I am a committee member, so I'm not going to see what you saw. All right, so Willie, do the TIAs for one cycle get voted on before the closing of public inputs? Okay, Willie, Mr. Snyder, here's a great question, and the reason I'm pausing is because I'm trying to collect my thoughts. So if, let's say that we got done with NFPA 110, and let's say that the committee goes, oh, we screwed up. We needed to fix this, but we did not. If the chair cannot reconvene us to continue the discussion, and let's say that we create a TIA, tentative interim amendment, or temporary interim amendment. I don't know if it's temporary or tentative. I screw that word up every single time, twice on Sunday. So if we get the TIA in and it is voted on by the committee, and remember, to get a TIA passed, you have to follow a procedure. It's a little bit more difficult to get a TIA done than it would have been if we had done it at the panel, because you need more than just 2/3. You need more than just a simple majority. It's a process. But if we get it done before the first printing of the code book, meaning you go through the process, you've got your signatures to get the TIA created, it goes to the code making panel. I believe 3/4 have to pass, not just 2/3. I believe it's 3/4. Then it has to go to the correlating committee. They need to approve it. And maybe it's 2/3 at the panel and 3/4 at the correlating committee. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the rules and regs, Willie. It's tentative. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm going to have to write that. You know, my buddy sent me that to remind me of UL Product IQ. I think I need the word tentative on a big billboard in the back of me. But in any case, if it gets through that process, then it can be a part of the first printing. It will still be a public input for next cycle. That's regardless if it's 110, 111, 70, etc., etc., right? So that TIA can be a part of the first printing. It will look like it's just part of the book. It is a TIA. It did have to jump through a lot of different hoops to get past. And it could be made a part of, and it will be a public input for next cycle. Hopefully that answered your question. And it is a tentative interim amendment. Okay, so let's do this. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bang. These were the 11 comments, 3 correlating committee notes that became comments. And these are the sections. But I'm going to start from the beginning. 1.1, if you recall. In 1.1, we changed the scope. This did not change as part of the second draft. There were no public comments. The committee didn't make a public comment. The scope was modified, if you recall, to say this does not apply to an Article 702 optional standby system. Now, because what's the title of this? The title is for Standard for Emergency and Standby Power Systems. And where the confusion lies was standby power systems, because the argument could be made that a 702 system is a standby power system. It's standing by. So clarity was added that Article 702 does not the scope of this document does not include Article 702 systems. And then we said, well, you know what? We said an optional standby system and we wanted to define it. So we created a definition in Chapter 3 for 3.3.14 optional standby systems. You'll notice it is extracted text out of the 2020 code. And you know what we did not check was... Brian Bowman, you should have been on the shtick here. Let's go to NFPA link, and we're going to go to NFPA 70 2023. We're going to go to the definitions of optional standby system, because it came out of, remember, everything was moved to Article 100, blah, blah, blah. All that jazz. So let's look for optional standby systems, and hopefully it's under O for optional and not S for standby, because that means I've got to scroll a dingo all the way down. Optional, overcurrent, outlet, organ, optical, optional standby systems. Oh, come on, link. There you go. Those systems intended to supply power to public or private facilities or property where life safety does not depend on the performance of the system. These systems are intended to supply on-site, generated or stored power to selected loads, either automatically or manually. Nothing changed. Now you're going to go, Tom, why did you read it? Why didn't you just look to see if anything was highlighted? And I'll tell you why. because I have learned that some of the changes that occurred in the 2023 cycle are not highlighted in the code book. And there are some changes that are highlighted that were not really a change because we just simply moved things. So I am overly cautious. We could have, and I would argue we probably should have, changed 2020 to 2023 as part of the committee work, but we had 2 days and 11 public inputs took us from 9 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 5 hours to do 11 public inputs or public comments, 5 hours to do 11 public comments, no lunch, 1 15-minute break. Yes, Brian, thank you. All right, chapter 2, reference publications. They were updated with the latest dates, and you know what? This is chapter 2. There's extracted text. Chapter 2. I clicked on chapter 3. All right, so I believe the NEC style manual changed in regard to the dates. But I'm not sure, Brian, about whether or not we're supposed to have the dates. I guess we are. This is referenced publications. So it probably would be appropriate to put the dates in, and I believe the style manual said to add the dates as well. So we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Because remember, the new style manual did away with the concept of if no date is there, it's the latest edition, etc. So the new style manual, I believe, and that's the NEC style manual, which changed, which this does not follow. But I believe they changed the new style manual to align with how we treat all other NFPA documents. So the dates that are in chapter 2, reference publications, were all updated in the first draft. Nothing changed. I'm a little curious. Yeah, so 70 changed to the 2023 edition, yet we pulled the 2020 definition out. Interesting. Oh, the webs that we weave. All right, so chapter 3, we've got some modifications to definitions. We added, so here's, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you where my head was at going. Okay, first of all, I'm on the committee. I'm on NFPA 110 and 111. I do not speak on behalf of NFPA 110 and 111. I don't speak on behalf of NFPA. I don't speak on behalf of IAEI, NEMA, Eaton, anybody out there other than numero uno. Whatever comes out of here started up there, and it's from the heart, so it's not anybody else's opinion but mine. So I just want to make sure that I covered that. All right, so what I'm giving you my perspective on some of this stuff. I'm going to stay as neutral as I can and just let you know where the debates were and where the camps were. So on this one here, the public input did not have any substantiation for removing the word dilute and adding the word metallic, but I think it was obvious. Cadmium is a metal, so we added metallic in front of cadmium. And then the other discussion was around this word dilute, and what it said before was dilute potassium hydroxide, and they changed that to aqueous potassium hydroxide solution. So let's take a look at the definition of nickel cadmium battery 3.3.12. And you know what I do like? I do like the fact that each definition has a section number. I don't know why, but The NEC doesn't have that. The NEC is just Article 100 and you know the definition term. But every definition has a section number. I had to take out my thingy bob. It's bugging me. So nickel cadmium battery, they added an or Ni-CD. So remember what's in these parens. What's in these parens over here is what I'm talking about. That's for searchability. So apparently in the code, if we added Ni-CD and NICD, as opposed to correcting all of the Ni-CDs to NICDs, or vice versa, to settle on one, we covered our butts and added the dash and the non-dashed, because probably technically neither is incorrect, meaning both are correct. So anyway, so we got rid of what it used to say was a secondary cell in which the active material of the positive electrode is nickel oxyhydroxide. And we changed that to a rechargeable battery consisting of one or more cells in which the active material of the positive electrode is nickel instead of oxyhydroxide, we changed it to oxide hydroxide. So I don't have that in here, but we changed oxyhydroxide to oxide space hydroxide. So a secondary cell in which was changed to a rechargeable battery consisting of one or more cells. So it's a nickel cadmium battery, a NiCad battery. Nickel cadmium battery is a rechargeable battery. So it would never be a disposable battery, I guess is what we're saying. So a nickel cadmium batteries, as we're using the term in this book, is a rechargeable battery, not a battery that is disposable and cannot be recharged. Now, the other change was, again, metallic cadmium and the electrolyte. So the last sentence reads, this is what it used to read, the electrolyte is dilute potassium hydroxide. What we changed it to is probably, I think what we changed it to sounds better, and it's probably more accurate. What we changed it to is, and the electrolyte is aqueous potassium hydroxide solution. We probably should have said is an aqueous potassium hydroxide solution. Say that 100 times. All right, so that's what we did in 3.3.12. How about this? Okay, this is where we spend a lot of time. In fact, we broke off into a task group, and the task group really did not come to a consensus. There were a few people who did not agree with where they went, and then we went more into debate. We went back and forth, repeating a lot of the same information. It went on, and this is what we ended up with. So we have a new definition. It's going to be after qualified persons and before switch. Now, I guess this is an argument of not numbering all of these, because now the numbers, if this is going to be 3.3.16, then the existing 3.316 and then everything after has to be renumbered. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so reliability-centered maintenance. I'll tell you where the debate was. First, in 8.1, so this is where it started, was in 8.1. There was a suggested change to remove, provided that it is in accordance with 8.1.1. So let's take a look. Hopefully you have your copy of either NFPA link to look at the existing language, or you're looking at second draft. You can also look at the first draft. So remember, 8 is routine maintenance and operational testing. So here's the thing, and I think all of these documents, and 110 is no different than 70E, and it's like 70E and 70, the NEC, and now 110 and 111, any document that has references around maintenance. We got a new boy on the block. We got NFPA 70B, as in Bob, as in boy, as in bestie, as in baby. Don't fix it, repair it, maintain it. Okay? So NFPA 70B is now a standard. So, and it became a standard in between first and second draft. So, in my opinion, Chapter 8 needs to be looked at so that it doesn't create jurisdictional issues between 110 and NFPA 70B, as does NFPA 70E, as does 70 and a bunch of other NFPA documents. You need to now understand we've got a new NFPA document that is a standard, and we probably want to police some of these requirements and make sure that the contents supplement or modify what's in 70B, but doesn't step on the toes of 70B. Now, having said that, we ended up in 70B, okay, because of the way the discussions were going about this concept of reliability-centered maintenance. Now, the question, a few code panels, and there were a few healthcare individuals who posed the question, what is reliability-centered maintenance? What are the requirements for reliability-centered maintenance? And in that adventure of trying to determine what that is, we ended up in 70B. Michael Hofkin, yes, sir. Hit the like button, subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Commercial. IAEI is here for you, so please subscribe, hit the bell. Don't forget your membership has its value as well. So please, if you're not an IAEI member, become an IAEI member. All right, so we were exploring this discussion of what is reliability-centered maintenance, and we ended up over in 70B, as in Barbarunos. Go and open your NFPA link. If you scroll down, there's a 2023 edition of 70B. And here's what you could do. You could, this is what, you know what? Let me show you something. I'm going to try something. Close. I am going to, oh yes. Okay. Chapter 1, am I in it? I'm in it to win it. So, I am in NFPA 70B 2023 edition. I'm going to search for, what was the term? I'm going to search for reliability-centered maintenance. Reliability-centered maintenance. This is the cool thing about NFPA Link. I'm going to search all of NFPA 70B. So we have an informative annex, I. We have I 1.4. We have M, government publications, but that's just reliability. That's not reliability-centered maintenance. And then A 6.6. So the only thing we have in 70B is annex material on reliability-centered maintenance. But the panel, NFPA 110, wanted to know what is reliability-centered maintenance. Now let's do this. I'm going to show you another little trick. I can search all NFPA publications, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put quotes around this. so that I just get that and 70B, 70B. Look at that. It's also in NFPA 70, availability and reliability for critical operation power systems. In Annex F. So, this was our struggle. We have a new requirement in 8.1 about reliability-centered maintenance, but no one knows what it is. Now, so if you go to 2023, Informative Annex I, this was the only crumb of cheese that we could put our arms around. And the title of it, Annex I, is Reliability-Centered Maintenance. So it's not part of the requirement. So remember, anything in annex material is informational only. Now, if you look at I.1 is our definitions, terms that are defined. In I.1, we have 1.1 is availability. It explains what is availability. 1.2 is RCM maintenance. And a part of RCM, so what's nice about I.1.2 was it gives us a little bit more of what reliability-centered maintenance is and all the different aspects. So I'm just gonna read you something here. It says those activities and actions that directly retain the proper operation of an item or restore that operation when it is interrupted by failure or some other anomaly. These activities and actions include removal and replacement of failed items, repair of failed items, lubrication, servicing, and calibrations. Other activities and resources are needed to support maintenance. These include spares, procedures, blah, 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 blah. These activities and resources. So, I.1.2.1, corrective maintenance. Actions required to restore a failed item. Hold on. Failed items. So you have corrective maintenance, you have preventative maintenance, you have condition-based maintenance. So, and then it explains what condition-based maintenance is. So let's do this. Condition-based maintenance. Let's go back to our search. Condition-based maintenance. Nothing in any of those documents. Let me put a dash. Oh, condition-based maintenance is in 70B. It's the one I'm reading right now. I'm going to do all of NFPA 70B. I'm going to take all right, so just worried about copyright stuff. So let me go back up to in 70B in maintenance intervals. We do predictive, continuous monitoring, and predictive techniques to modify the maintenance schedules. All right, so we have in Annex I, we have condition-based maintenance, preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance, all subsets of RCM. Now, if you scroll down, you get reliability, and then there's another definition for RCM. A logical, structured framework. A logical, structured framework for determining the optimum mix of applicable and effective maintenance activities needed to sustain the operational reliability of systems and equipment while ensuring their safe and economical operation and support. So what we did in chapter 3 was we extracted I.1.4, which is one of two definitions for reliability-centered maintenance. We picked the shortest one. The other one was very long. It had 3 subparts, and one of those subparts had 2 subparts. So why did we pick one over the other? I think it's just simplicity. But it does, where the debate was, one side of the table says, we've been doing this for years in healthcare. Now remember, this is not just healthcare. So we had some individuals who are saying, look, we know what reliability center maintenance is. The other side of the table said, explain it. And the other side of the table gave us information, but there's no real document or standard for it. Hey, Steve Cavaleris, thanks for joining us. So, Brian, we had this discussion and we ended up extracting annex material, putting it in as a defined term, which I'd love to know what the 70B committee's opinion is of creating a defined term, because 70B does not define in chapter 3 reliability-centered maintenance, nor does 70B even use the term anywhere in the document outside of informative annex I. And I would hazard a guess that why do we have an informative annex I that speaks to reliability-centered maintenance when the term is not even used? Let's go back to an older edition of NFPA 70B. Let's go to the previous edition, which would have been the 19 edition. And let's search for RCM. Chapter 30 was reliability-centered maintenance. And that is why you have informative annex I, which had 4 sections to it. And the content that you see that was in chapter 30 was just moved to annex material because remember what we did in 70B. Steve, Mr. Cavaleris, what we did in 70B, when we moved it to a standard, we realized that all of the existing language was written in recommended practice language. You know, you could do this, you should do that, and you might want to think about this. So we moved all of that to annex material. Then we went back and looked at the chapter organization and we said, all right, we need these chapters to give us our general requirements, etc. These are our products, and this is how you maintain products. We worried about the relationship between the two. We never created a reliability-centered maintenance chapter for 70B, but we left it as information in the back. I don't know that 70B would have thought that another document would extract the text and put it as a defined term and make requirements around that. But that's what happened. So Willie Snyder says, I will have to submit completion of the maintenance process. I will have to submit completion of the maintenance process shall result in a pizza party. Wow. Here's the problem, Willie. I'm going to put my codes and standards hat on. Where are you getting the pizza? All right. If it's not from Berg's Pizza, which is in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, I'm not having it. That's the only place I'm going to eat pizza from. Now, you could take some Chicago pizza out. I'm not sure about the deep dish, but my problem with a pizza party is it's not a party if it's bad pizza. Pepperoni and extra cheese. You start throwing anchovies on it, I'm out of here. You start throwing the kitchen sink on it, I'm out of here. So what you put on that pizza is important. So what we need, Willie, is a standard for pizza, for good pizza. An NFPA 70P for pizza, NFPA 70 Paul P, and we'll call it the standard for excellent pizza. All right, then Willie, and we got to get a committee to agree on what an excellent pizza is. And then when you throw the pizza party, we will make sure it adheres to NFPA 70P. All right, so this was a very long debate on reliability-centered maintenance. We have a requirement in Chapter 8, in 8.1.3, that reliability-centered maintenance is permitted. We removed the reference to 8.1.1. And what was 8.1.1? All right, so the way 8.1 is laid out, these are the general requirements for routine maintenance and operational testing. 8.1.1 is the routine maintenance and operational testing program shall be based on all of the following: manufacturer's recommendations, instruction manuals, minimum requirements of this chapter, and the authority having jurisdiction. 8.1.2 is the consideration shall be given to temporarily providing a portable or alternate source whenever the emergency generator is out of service and the criteria set forth in section 4.3 cannot be met. And then 8.1.3 says reliability-centered maintenance shall be permitted. Now, you still have to do 8.1.1 and 8.1.2. You can't get out of that. And you can't do something that violates manufacturer's instructions, obviously. You can't do something that is less than the minimum requirements, obviously, which is in 8.1.1. And the AHJ has final say. So you can't subvert or go around the AHJ by just saying, look, I know it's below minimum requirements. I know you're not going to approve this, but you don't have to because I have done a reliability-centered maintenance and do whatever I want to do, because reliability-centered maintenance is not defined anywhere. There's no standard for it. So that was our debate. And that was the discussion. Do I subvert 8.1.1 because I removed the language provided that it is in accordance with 8.1.1? I could look at it and say I'm removing that language because it has to be in accordance with 8.1.1. I can't tell the AHJ you have no rights to approve or disapprove what I'm doing. I can't say I'm going to go less than the minimum requirements of the chapter, and I'm going to ignore instruction manuals and manufacturer recommendations. That was our debate. One side of the table said, look, we're not telling you you don't have to do 8.1.1. We're telling you that reliability-centered maintenance may be different than the manufacturer's recommendations. And remember, it's manufacturer's recommendations. So in any case, so we went back and forth with that. All rise, David Engelhardt is in the house, new chair of NFPA 70 Pizza. All right, you know what? And David, I want to be on the committee as well. I want to, because I definitely have an opinion on pizza. All right. So I would like to be on your committee. Since it was created here at the IAEI News Live, maybe we can have a committee and we can have a publicized first draft meeting. We're looking for public inputs. for NFPA 70P for pizza. You know what? And maybe I'll create a website for it. I don't know. You never know what Tom D is going to do. All right. So we added also annex material. We added annex material here, but I don't have the language. I'll give you a gist of what it says. Reliability-centered maintenance should not jeopardize the objective of 8.1.1. Reliability-centered maintenance is an umbrella strategy and decision-making process that analyzes systems and assets, defines the design function, and determines the risk and/or criticality to the organization and operation of the facility. Through a risk analysis process focused on the system and asset failure modes and their potential consequences, RCM aims to optimize the maintenance strategy to apply the most effective maintenance approach for each system and asset. The goal is to develop a comprehensive maintenance program that maximizes system and asset reliability, minimizes downtime, and optimizes maintenance costs for the organization. Costs. It's going to optimize maintenance costs because we all know, well, I'm not going to go there. For additional considerations related to reliability-centered maintenance, reference NFPA 70B 2023 Annex I. So, that is what, and that was heavily contested, heavily debated. It did get enough votes at the table to survive. We'll see what happens as part of the next process. Robert from Omaha likes pizza as well. All right. So, you know what we're going to have to do, David? We're going to have a part 1, meat lovers, and part 2, vegetarian or vegan. Or maybe a part 2 is vegetarian, maybe part 3 is vegan, because they're different. And then maybe part 4 is keto. So, David, it is it's getting more and more complicated. See, 70P is not as straightforward as you thought. All right. I am opposed to pineapple on pizza. Aye. All right, that's the first vote. But you don't have a committee yet, Willie. All right, so the next change, Chapter 3 definitions. Remember, we talked about bypass isolation switch. 3.3.16.2, 3.3.16 was switch. Point 2 was bypass isolation switch. We defined a bypass isolation switch as a manual, non-automatic, or automatic device used in conjunction with a transfer switch to provide a means of bypass that directly connects the load conductors to a power source and allows the transfer switch to be isolated or disconnected. Here are the critical components that we wanted to make sure was in the defined term for a bypass isolation switch. We recognize A, it can be manual, non-automatic, or automatic device. So those are the 3 basic types. It is used in conjunction with a transfer switch. It may or may not be a part of the transfer switch. That's the other detail that we wanted to make sure that we had in this definition, was that I've got to write something down, and here's what I'm doing. I don't know about your memories, but I am going to write something down real quick, because if I don't, and it's a password. Oh my. All right. All right. I just had to write. I changed the password, and I'll tell you what, every time this was logging off, I'm like, oh, don't log off, because if I have to, forget it. Anyway. So we wanted to make sure that that we clarified that it can be manual, automatic, or non-automatic. B, it can be a separate switch or a part of a transfer switch. And that it allows the transfer switch to be isolated and or disconnected. So I can isolate it and then I can disconnect the transfer switch, meaning I'm bypassing it. I'm isolating it, bypassing it, and then I can perform maintenance on my transfer switch. So that way, because remember, the transfer switch is a critical component in a life safety system, period. It goes down, you don't get backup power. So we want to make sure that when you are performing maintenance on it, on the transfer switch, that you can bypass it, you can isolate it for safety, etc. All right. Opposing pineapple pizza, triple meat, absolutely. Pepperoni and extra cheese. Just saying. All right. Those were the only two changes. So 2 changes in chapter 3, nickel cadmium, add some clarity. New defined term, reliability centered maintenance, that is paired with requirements for reliability centered maintenance. Now let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4. What did we do? Created a new type X. We didn't change this. So remember what we did. In 4.1, which is general requirements, chapter 4 is classification of emergency power supply systems. This is the classification. 4.1.A is talks about a class, say a class 6 is 6 hours, class 2 is 2 hours, class 0.083 is 5 minutes, class 0.25 is 15 minutes, quarter of an hour, etc. There was a class X in there, so that said other time in hours as required by the application, code, or user. And what we did in the first draft was we added a 4.1b type of emergency power supply system, EPSS, as a type X, which would be an other time in seconds as required by the application code or user. So remember, in table 4.1.b, for the types of EPSSs, not classifications, but types, there's a type U, which is like your UPS, type 10, which is a 10-second, type 60, which is 60 seconds, type 120, which is 120 seconds, and type M, which is manual, stationary, or non-automatic, no time limit. You don't have to run to do the transfer switch, and you're definitely not going to like the time if it's me. All right, just saying. And then we added a type X, which is a time that is in seconds, that is required by the application, the code, or the user. And honestly, I believe the type designation X aligns with the classification designation X as well. Oh, Nihad, bacon. I love bacon. I agree with seafood, but I'm a bacon guy. All right, so chapter 5, that was the only, so second draft didn't do anything in chapter 4. First draft added type X to 4.1, table 4.1b for types. In chapter 5, Cinco, you'll love this. No second draft changes. No second draft changes. We made a change in the first draft. Annex material modified, added wind damage and cyber attack as examples of probability of interruption. So all we did there was we modified the annex material, recognized, wind and cyber attacks. In 5.2.3, we gave the phase to neutral fault as another possible short circuit example in 5.2.3. All right, Nihad, just scrape that bacon over to me. I love it. Extra bacon for Tommy D. Fuel tank capacity. we had the discussion about the main fuel tank minimum capacity of at least 100% of the low fuel sensor quantity specified in 552. We had the discussion and the concern about having the right amount of capacity for fuel when you're powered by fuel. And really, remember, we did recognize in NFPA 7 and 110, so this is the energy sources, is chapter 5. Energy sources, we recognized I thought we recognized, or did we recognize? I thought we recognized well, there's the classifications in 4. That's not 5 is your emergency. Yes, we did. We recognized hydrogen gas. All right. So yes, the ayes have it. We recognized hydrogen gas, and we recognized gas. We have diesel, gas, spark ignited, fuel cells. That was what I'm looking for. I couldn't remember the word. So we recognized fuel cells as well in NFPA 110, which I think is another, because we're moving in that direction, and unfortunately some people think a fuel cell is an energy storage system, and it's not. It's a generation. It's not a generator like a diesel or etc. It relies on another source, and we recognize hydrogen gas. Hydrogen is one of those types of sources. So we do recognize fuel cells in NFPA 110. All right, rotating equipment, types of batteries. We added nickel, zinc, lithium ion, or other stored energy technology capable of providing sufficient established prime mover cranking cycles. Did not modify that. We, in prime mover starting equipment, we added to recognize the high engine temperature may be independent of other factors. So, and it allows the prime mover manufacturer to specify necessary protection. So, we gave some flexibility to the manufacturer for the prime mover. We added a new section, which did not change in the second draft. Level 1 systems to comply with having integrity checks for the start. You're going to see this came from in NFPA 70. We did something similar because we're worried about that start signal. We want that indication. We want to know that if the conductors are broken between that transfer switch and the generator, that if there's a problem with the circuit, we want the generator to start. And you might go, why the heck did the generator start? Well, the integrity of the start signal circuit was compromised. So that language that actually began in the National Electrical Code, migrated over to 110 as part of the first draft. It did not change, and it was not modified as part of the second draft. Fuel cell converter. Robert, I think that, in my opinion, it's a generator. Now, unfortunately, when I say generator, we all picture a rotating, like a diesel generator, etc. Remember, it's a different way. I'm not sure I don't know if you're asking the question or if you're saying it's a converter. I mean, you could look at anything, even a diesel generator. It's converting diesel fuel into electric power, if you want to look at things that way. But You're generating electricity based upon a fuel source. And it's a fuel cell that's generating the electricity. That's the way I look at it. I could argue a generator, a diesel generator. The generator itself is creating electricity as a result of being turned by a motor of some sort, which is powered from diesel, or it could be powered from natural gas. It could be powered from gasoline. It could be powered from propane, right? So I need something to turn a generator. A fuel cell does it a little differently. All right, chapter 8. We already talked about this. I already talked about 8.3. 8.3, I think I got the title of 8.3 incorrect. 8.3 is actually maintenance and operational testing. All right, Nihad, thank you, sir. Oh, that's right. And it's 1 o'clock. So 8.3 is maintenance and operational testing. We did the inspected monthly and maintained in full compliance. We made changes to 8361.1 and 8361.2. 8361.1, we talked about batteries that are maintainable, have to include monthly testing and recording of the electrolyte, specific gravity. And 8.1.1.2 talks about battery testing methods in 8.3.6.1.2, which we'll look at that, in lieu of testing specific gravity when applicable or warranted. And 8.3612 deals with batteries that are not maintainable and you don't have access to the electrolyte. You have to do monthly testing using one of the following methods. So we added some clarity. We separated 83611 and 83612. 83611 is batteries that can be maintained. 83612 is batteries that cannot be maintained. And we said, look, you can do conductance testing. We changed the conductance. So we changed the verbiage there in item 1. Everything else was the same. Operational inspection in 8.4. Yep. We made some changes in the first draft, did not change in the second draft. We modified Annex A in the first draft, 4.1, to add clarity on what is an emergency power supply system. Did not change that. And we already said in NFPA 111, we had one public comment. We rejected it because it was new material. And remember, NFPA 111 is the standard on stored electrical energy emergency and standby power systems. We had a meeting yesterday. It was a good meeting. We went over 11 public comments, and we made some changes. We debated, we argued, we cried, we cheered, we laughed, and all that stuff. Brian Bowman, 700.10D4 in the 2023 NEC expanded monitoring and control wiring requirements to all types of emergency sources. That is correct, Brian. Very correct. You and I have to do a program on IAEI News Live. Send me a note. I'll pick a Tuesday. And I'd love to talk a little bit more with you on some of the other changes. I believe it was 702. I think it was 702. Well, you and I need to chat. And maybe one day, everybody out there on IAEI News Live land is going to get to see the one, the only, Brian Double B Bowman in the house. All right. Well, we covered NFPA 110, 111, gave you a little bit of the update. The process from here, we're going to get ballots. Yes, maybe the Western Section meeting. That's a good idea, Brian. So we're going to get our ballots. And the changes that I just showed you may or may not survive. Remember, there was only one really controversial one, and that was on the RCM. I don't know what's going to happen with that one. Out of all of the changes that we did make, which weren't many, the new definition and the changes in Section 8, 8.1.3, I think it was, are the only two that I think could be questionable. the new defined term coming from annex material from another document may or may not survive. And 8.1.3, that whole section, what we did in the first draft and second draft, just because of the whole concept and the argument, the debate around reliability-centered maintenance, I think that's the one to watch. 8.1.3, that section, as we continue through the process, is the one to watch to see if it survives. And if it does survive, what it looks like when it's finally published. Because remember, we'll have the ballots. The ballots will come out, everybody will vote. They'll recirculate, everybody will either maintain their vote or change their vote. And then it will go to the annual meeting next year, June of 2024. We'll have the annual meeting. That's the chance to do any NITMAMs or certified amending motions. And then there's the final stage after the annual meeting next year, which are appeals to Standards Council. And that's the last possible chance to change the book. And then somewhere in the middle of all that, the correlating committee will have to look at what was done, make sure that we didn't step on anybody's toes. And in my opinion, 8.1.3 is going to be on their radar, and to see if there's any violation of jurisdictional issues with regard to, can we take annex material, extract annex material, and make it into a requirement in one document? So I don't know the answer to that, but I know that the correlating committee is going to make that review happen. All right. Thank you for joining in another IAEI News Live. I enjoyed our session. I enjoyed talking about 110 and 111. And hopefully I gave a fair and balanced report on what occurred in 110 and 111. I'd love to know your opinion. Take a look at what 110 did. Let us know. Let me know down below, to the left, to the right, up above. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when we go live on IAEI News Live on our YouTube channel. Get out there to www.youtube.com, IAEI International, and subscribe. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Electrical Times. Thank you, Brian Bowman. Robert from Omaha, Nihad El Sharif, who had to step away, Willie Snyder, David Englehart. God bless you, brother. Thank you for joining in and letting us play. And Steve Cavaleris from Electrical Times, and Michael Hofkin too. Look what I got. Michael, still here, brother. And go out there and subscribe to your UL Product IQ. All right, everybody, take care, stay safe. God bless, and please stay healthy. See you next week.